the meeting to order first at 7:31. We do quickly have to approve our last meeting. So I'll pull it up. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to read through. I tried to write these, trying to get better about who's making motion and who's seconding it. But so I may have got that wrong on one of these, but the only votes we had the Maple Way, the 50 grand. We did take a vote, so I put that in there. And when you don't have unanimous, you have to put how people vote. So I did put that for that motion. We obviously then had our three motions for what we approved for the tax levy and then the sewer and the water divisions. So I don't remember when we adjourned. So I'm pretty sure it was around 8:20.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
Okay, roll call. Frank,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
Sam.
I think you're muted, Sam.
You're muted, but I think I saw you nod yes. No, it says you're not muted, but we can't hear you. So thumbs up, I'm gonna guess. Yeah, Shane.
Okay.
Yes.
And Tracy.
Yes.
Okay, thanks all. Sam, you want to try your audio again? No.
Maybe you can just say it in the chat if you need it officially or something.
No.
Maybe just put it in the chat, Sam. Or
yeah.
So by the way, I'm on my new laptop, so this one should work.
Hopefully
By
it
the
will
way,
work. It'll like Zoom. So
right.
so thanks everyone for joining early. I have three workbooks pulled up. I have the very first one that we looked at our first meeting. I have the one I sent yesterday, which is sort of how we the one we came into our final meeting with most of the cuts involved, and then I have the final warrant article. So not to go back too in the future. So I was going to bring up the one that we were looking at for our final meeting. Does that make sense? Okay.
It does.
Okay, because I don't know if there was anything we cut on day one that would make a triumphant return here. And again, just for the records, we're having to revote. The school department has a revolving fund that they use for the Wakefield Academy, which is the after-school program. And during their budget discussions, they decided that they would fund the 2A radios, since the academy would be using the radios, through that revolving fund. So they couldn't use the fund for, like, I asked whether or not they couldn't use the money towards like HVAC or some of the other school requests. And it was clear that because it was coming from the Wakefield Academy or that revolving fund, it had to be something that they would be using, is how it was explained to me. So as you know, the town council, I approached them about not allowing us to revote, and then I'll come back in April with our final vote. So just for the record, that's why we're meeting again, even though the last meeting was supposedly our final meeting. Okay.
I have a question. Is that the clear process? Has this happened before on a revote? Do we go to the council, ask their permission, so on and so forth?
In my tenure, the only time we had a revote was the COVID year for FY21, when we had approved 2 million, but then when COVID hit, they asked us to cut our ass to 1 million. So we had to meet again to revote. But that was sort of a very unique, special thing. I haven't had an instance where, I'm sure, I think at one point, I think Tracy brought up maybe it was a bus. I think we had approved a vehicle and something was purchased after we approved it. And that's probably bound to happen from time to time. Like things may things may line up or not line up. That's just nature. We meet once a year. But so I don't know. I don't think so, Frank, but it may have happened in the past. I don't know.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just start with anyone has any thoughts on how we want to replace we have $125,000. If anyone want to start the discussion with any ideas or suggestions.
Can anyone hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, switch to my
phone. I had a computer update, and I think my mics don't work anymore. So
Don't
Get
you
that
love
figured out.
those?
Yeah.
I glanced through and I looked for just like a one-to-one possible situation. And the Ewell School boiler replacement and abatement is also 125,000. And I know you, Phil, I think you begrudgingly accepted taking that off the list because you're worried about boilers and getting those replaced. So I'm open to putting a little bit more into the Ewell School than we have. If only because we do own the building, and no matter what we do with it, some of that stuff needs to get done. So, in a one-to-one swap, I'd put forward the boiler for the Ewell School.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea. Do you recall what kind of physical plant we gave them last year? What kind of capital?
Yeah, I can look it up. I can look it up in the meantime. Okay, Sam, thank you. Does anyone have, just before we vote on any, does anyone have any other ones they want to throw into the mix for discussion?
Yeah, I have one. Oh,
Go ahead.
Yep.
okay. This is also a one for one. The Dolbear rubber surfacing. I know it doesn't solve our ADA issue with the playground, but at least that might get most of the work done. And, given that we may have a more restrained budget next year, I know that we're kind of trying to, as quickly as possible, just finish up the entire project for all the playgrounds. Who knows if that'll be possible next year? So that's just another suggestion to throw into the mix.
Okay.
I have a question. Are we trying to keep it with the school system? With the,
That's up to us. I don't think there's any
Okay.
requirement
okay, okay.
that we do that. If we feel that we should, then, so I don't think there's any requirement for us to do that.
And I'd like to raise the second RTU unit for the library. We put that aside. It's going to need replacement. If next year is going to be a tight budget, this may not get through. This doesn't eat up your whole 125,000, but I don't see why we have to spend it all in one place. So that's my suggestion. And full disclosure, as you know, I'm a library trustee. So,
Okay. Any other thoughts from anyone else?
I think those pretty much covered what I was looking at as well. I was leaning towards the Dolbear also. And I'm trying to just remember with the Ewell School, I think what came up was we didn't know kind of, I guess, the future of that, right? So that was my only hesitation with that, because I agree with that too, but I'm just trying to recall our conversation where we thought that might get a full rehab or something at some point, and we just didn't want to do that if
There was a lack of a pathway from the main walkway to the play area. And so the question was whether or not, if we'd made the surface rubber, someone still has to transverse over landscape, grass or however people get there now. And so, I think that was one discussion about coming back with the full plan with the surface and a walkway. But I think that was part of our discussion. And that was one of the reasons. But the plus side, well, during our discussions was, what Garrett said is just to try to knock off the last playground from our list, so it would sort of complete, or someone during our conversations, a couple people maybe brought up that it would be nice to do it because then it would be done. And then, I would imagine a walkway might be able to be done, separately, so, okay. Tracy, did you have anything in mind or?
No, I like the suggestions that have been made.
Okay.
A question about the Ewell School. Was there any? Is it an oil burner?
Yeah, so the Ewell School is oil, and there is no gas on that street, and so it would probably have to go back. it would have to go and involve some sort of infrastructure work to bring gas, which is not, my understanding is not included in that cost. The cost would be for the equipment itself, no sort of infrastructure. And so, I mean, when Joe, I don't know if Joe's joined yet, but I don't think so. If Joe, I would love to clarify that.
I recall too, I think Joe said it would be a coordination of both, right?
Yeah.
Wakefield Gas and Light Department, but if I recall, Joe said he could dig the trench up there, but it would have to, be in conjunction with Wakefield Gas and Light Department.
Right, because there is a moratorium on new gas connections in town.
Right.
Like if any of us tried to get gas to our house and we didn't have it, they would tell you you'd have to, I don't know what the process is, but you get on a list or you just have to put electric in. So maybe when it's a town building, there's a little bit of a different avenue you can take because it's a public building.
So it's exclusively an oil burner,
Mhm.
It's an oil, yeah, it's an oil fired boiler. Yeah.
so it can't be converted to gas.
Well, well, the boiler itself is the oldest boiler in town, is the way it was explained, and then the burner is an oil burner. With boilers, you can replace a burner to be a gas-fired burner. But you get into other modifications regarding, my experience is the flue, usually because now you're burning a different fossil fuel, so you might have to get into different venting. But if it's the age of the boiler is ancient, it may not make sense to put a brand new burner on a 30-year-old boiler. You sort of would probably be best served to replace the whole boiler and burner at the same time if you're changing fuels.
All right, so given the policy is that we're moving away from fossil fuels, then maybe the boiler replacement is not a good idea, given the alternative that we have before us, the playground.
Yep.
I mean, at this point, I think both ideas are good ones, but I mean, we're really getting down to the nitty gritty here, so I think that my decision will hinge on, the condition that, when do we think what are we gonna do next year if we postpone the boiler?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on what comes on our list next year. That's a tough question because we don't know what's going to
Yeah,
come
that's
in.
true.
Yeah, we don't know what else is going to come in.
But I could go along with the Dolbia playground because that was one of my goals to,
Right.
cap off all the playgrounds this year.
Okay. My own to Dan's comment about the library is we're already approving 230,000 for the library. So my thought would be to add, because I was looking at thinking about this one, Dan, the other two on the old roof, but
Right.
I'm just looking at the spread of money here and wondering, that would put a lot into the library when there's other requests. So I would shy away from that one personally. I was thinking of the Yule, but again, I had some questions about the fuel and if 125, because it is the oldest boiler in town. I think it's something important. And then the Dolbear. Does anyone remember why we took off the rockery? Is that something that Joe just said that they would do in the town? Because
The rockery was to get a state earmark.
That's right, earmarks. So, okay. And then Landrigan Field, like if we were looking to spend money, like if we were looking for something that wasn't going to match, I thought maybe a team room renovation could be thrown in, but that was only if we were looking at things that were less than 125. So I'm fine with the Dolbear or the Yule, in all honesty. I think it would be great to get the playgrounds done. I think it will complete a cycle that we've been trying to do a little quicker, but I also, from a operational, like from my background, knowing that we have an old boiler, wonder if that's that. So I'd be fine if we're down to, if we could be down to those
right?
two. I don't know if people have one or the other. It's either a boiler that old school could benefit from, or we do a playground surface. We're not doing the playground. I should make sure I clarify we're not replacing the equipment.
One question, say the boiler breaks down in the next coming months or so, what happens then?
the town has to find money probably in their free cash, I would guess, or some
Yeah.
sort of
Okay.
fund, or how
It
does it
would probably come out of the finance committee reserve fund
reserve fund?
for an emergency boiler replacement or work. If they don't have, if they can't scrounge it from somewhere else.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't scrounge it. Yeah. So,
Okay, so that little piece of information leads me toward supporting the Dolbear item.
With Frank, actually, I lean towards Dolbear as well.
okay. Does someone want to make a motion for that?
Happy to do so. I make a motion that we move the 125,000 from the school budget to the Dolbear for the rubber surfacing for $125,000.
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
I have to keep the process pure, I think I have to recuse myself.
You do?
I think so. What
I
do you
don't
think?
So why? I think you can vote
Well,
on the final.
I
motion.
raised an argument about a library alternative.
Yeah, but that's okay. We're not voting on that though.
It's
So
off the
I
table, so you should be fine.
yeah, you're not, if you were voting on that motion, I 100% would say, the library, I would say you should recuse, but I
Okay.
would not see a reason why you couldn't vote on this.
Okay,
So, well, it looks like, I'm not sure about that. I think, I wish we had some kind of,
When in doubt, you recuse.
that was
If
right.
anyone has a doubt, I don't
was my
think you
point.
need to, because you didn't recuse yourself from the final vote at our last meeting, did you?
Yeah,
yes, he did.
Oh, you did from the final? Okay.
That Steve suggested when in doubt.
When in doubt, so
recuse.
that was his line? Okay, then, that's fine.
you got
So,
enough, you got
is there
enough
any-
people.
sorry, Dan. Mhm.
Yeah, you've got enough votes without me.
Okay. Any other discussion regarding the motion for the Dolbear Playground? Seeing none, I'll take a vote. Sam,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
Shane,
Jane,
I said
One.
yes. Can you hear
oh,
me or no?
sorry, yeah, there you go. Sorry, I'm just making sure. Tracy,
Yes.
Frank,
yes.
who did I forget? Sorry, I'm out of order here.
Yourself, I think.
Self, yeah.
And me. 1, 2, 3. That's right, because Dan is recusing. Okay.
So
There's
what
no
was
other-
the final vote?
6-0 and one abstaining or recusing.
Okay,
Okay. Well, there we go.
And it's boiler replacement?
No,
Oh,
it's not. It's the playground.
the doll there, good. Okay,
Okay, folks. Thanks for doing another final. I appreciate it. And I'll be on April 14th with Town Council, and then I have to present to FinCom on April 17th is the deal. So
are you
Yeah.
gonna send around the updated sheet?
I'll talk to Joe. I'll have him update the warrant article. We'll have to republish that to the appropriate committees in town. And then, yeah, I'll send the final final warrant article out to everyone so you have it.
Okay, great. Again, thanks a lot for pulling this all together and having it dropped in your lap. Hopefully it won't happen again.
Yeah, I made it just clear that I'm very easy to get in touch with. They have our email. This could have been resolved with the phone call ahead of our last meeting, and
Sure.
took up our time.
Absolutely.
They did apologize and said that they would make sure that it wouldn't happen again. So we'll go from there. Okay.
Okay.
Easy.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Good to see
All right.
everyone
Good day.
again.
we
Have
got
a
Thank you
great
for
weekend.
organizing.
All right.
We
You
have to
too.
adjourn.
See you
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Out and about.